I'm starting with the 49ers and Packers. The rivalry. It had to be this way. When you ask me who's the 49ers' number one rival, or just think about 49er rivalries, immediately I say the Packers. I understand for those who are older than me, they would say Cowboys or maybe even the Giants. But for me, without hesitation, I say the Packers. Why? Because the first playoff game I ever watched was the 95 divisional game between the 49ers and Packers. It was a Saturday afternoon, unforgettable. It was January 6th, 1996. What's the 95 season? That's why we call it 95. And the Packers stunned the 49ers. 49ers, the expectation was, well, they would at least make it to the championship game against the Cowboys. I mean, the 49ers were the defending Super Bowl champions. Steve Young, Jerry Rice. Not the team on paper they were in 94, but still loaded. And they should have made it to the Final Four in the NFL and had yet what had been 4 straight games between the 49ers and Cowboys in the championship game. But no, the Packers stepped in and the Packers stunned the 49ers at Candlestick and moved on. They would face the Cowboys and be eliminated. And the Cowboys would go on to win the Super Bowl. And guess what, folks? That was the last time the Cowboys had reached a championship game. I mean, we're not even talking about Super Bowl. Championship game, Super Bowl. That was the last time, the 95 season. But 96, they'd play again, this time in Lambeau. Really wasn't much a game because Steve Young was injured, and it was a rainy day in Green Bay, and the Packers won, and they won comfortably. Steve Young was injured, and the 49ers were wearing those white-on-white uniforms, which almost looked more like brown-on-brown uniforms. A sloppy game. And 2 years in a row, the Packers knocked and eliminated the 49ers out of the playoffs. And that was, it was an end of an era for the 49ers. That game was so bad, George Seifert was fired. And Steve Mariucci was hired in 1997. The Packers would go on and win the Super Bowl that year with Brett Favre. Brett Favre is the greatest 49er killer ever. Don't let anyone tell you anything different. 97, conference championship. That's 3 years in a row. Packers come into San Francisco and upset the 49ers, make it 3 straight, and it was back-to-back Super Bowls. Packers lose the Broncos, but they made it to back-to-back Super Bowls. That was enough. 1998 wild card game, 49ers Packers. San Francisco, the game we know as the catch-2. Controversial game. Yes, I admit that. We're not going to go into details today because I'm planning to do a much longer, deeper review of this rivalry. But 4 years in a row, the 49ers won that one. Then 1999, things changed for the 49ers. Steve Young had the career-ending concussion. The 49ers would miss the playoffs the next 2 seasons. But with Jeff Garcia and then Terrell Owens becoming one of the great receivers in the NFL, 49ers reached the playoffs again in 2001. And guess who they played in their first playoff game? The Green Bay Packers. In Lambeau, Packers win. It was 4 out of 5 for the Packers. And it could have easily been 5 out of 5. I admit that. 49ers, Packers. Then, fast forward to the Jim Harbaugh years. 2012. Divisional round. The Kaepernick game. where the 49ers win and win big against Aaron Rodgers at Candlestick. Get the best of the Packers. Then the following year, 2013 in Lambeau. I never thought the 49ers would win a game in Lambeau, and they won a playoff game in 2013 with Kaepernick and defeated the Packers and eliminated them 2 straight years. Wow, that was sweet. Not to mention, we're talking about playoffs here, they defeated the Packers in the opener in 2012 in Lambeau. One of Alex Smith's greatest moments. And then the thrilling game to start the back and forth between Rodgers and Kaepernick, where the 49ers came out in top 2. So they started and ended their seasons in 12 and 13 with losses. Never thought that would happen as a 49ers fan. 49ers won 2 straight. And then fast forward again to 2019. 49ers first year in the playoffs with Shanahan. Who they play in the championship game? The Packers. The 49ers ran all over them. That was the Raheem Mostert game. 2021, 49ers go into Green Bay. And it was this was a game that turned out to be kind of a snowy game. And the moment that happened, it turned the game into a 49ers game. The worse the conditions got, the colder it got, advantage 49ers being the more physical team, stun the Packers, defeat them once again, 2021 divisional round. That was 9 times. And now, 2023 divisional round playoffs, it couldn't be any other way. These two teams just have to play each other. It's the 49ers and Packers, and it's a record 10th time that they face off in the playoffs. No other set of teams, no 2 teams have ever faced each other 10 times in the NFL playoffs. And give some perspective, they did not start playing each other until, again, 1995. You go back to the other teams who were tied for the record, Packers and Cowboys, last week. Well, they started playing each other in the 60s. The first 2 conference championships leading to the Super Bowl. And then 49ers Cowboys. The early 70s, 3 consecutive seasons. And this didn't start till 95, and they already have the record. 10th time now playing each other in the playoffs. That's amazing. It covers my whole history as a fan of the 49ers, every era. Seifert, Mariucci, Harbaugh, and now Shanahan. The 49ers and Packers. Well, let's get into this game. The 49ers are the favorite. They are the 1 seed. But it's different now. We got 2 different quarterbacks. Because till this point, Brett Favre owned the 49ers, and then the 49ers owned Aaron Rodgers. Now you got 2 different quarterbacks, 2 young quarterbacks, Brock Purdy and Jordan Love. 2 different quarterbacks, and then you got, the matchup with head coaches, Shanahan versus LaFleur. Now, what are some of the keys in this game? It's in San Francisco, and it seems like weather will be a factor. As I've said before, we've had some rain games between the 49ers and Packers. We've had some bad weather games. And we may be in for one. I just hope for the quality of play it doesn't get too messy out there. I wouldn't think so in Santa Clara. I'd like to see a clean game. But clearly the pressure's on the 49ers. The Cowboys melted under the pressure. Not that that was the only problem they had last week, but they melted under the pressure last week. And the Packers played loose and they took advantage of the Cowboys on both sides of the ball. 49ers are coming off a bye. They're obviously a better team than the Dallas Cowboys. But what are the keys for the 49ers? Score first. Packers scored first and really never looked back in Dallas. Score first. And when I say score first, I'm not talking about 3, I'm talking about 7. Punch it in and let the Packers know it's going to be different today. Make it a physical game. That's the next point. Make it a physical game, both sides of the ball. And as much as we want to talk about the quarterbacks and passing, I believe the team who runs the ball best will win. And you've got a healthy Christian McCaffrey. You got Christian McCaffrey, you got Elijah Mitchell, you got Jordan Mason. Probably won't see action. But you have those running backs. And can the Packers actually stop the 49ers run game? The Packers have the 28th ranked run defense in the NFL this season. So make it a physical game on both sides of the ball. And on defense, you got to hit Jordan Love. You got to get pressure at the front four. And Nick Bosa, you need to start looking like the Nick Bosa of last year. Was he still good this year? Yeah. Was he still a Pro Bowler? Yes. But for his standards, disappointing season. And I would argue his worst season. I'm not even looking at the stats or the pressures or the quarterback hits. I'm just using my eyes. It was a letdown, disappointing season for Bosa, and this front four needs to win. They have Bosa and Chase Young on the outside. They got Hargrave. Eric Armstead's back. The Packers have a good young line. But can they make Jordan Love uncomfortable? Can they hit him because the Cowboys weren't able to do that? I mean, Micah Parsons, you remember him from that wild card game? Because I don't. I don't remember him having any kind of impact. It starts with Nick Bosa. And if he's getting doubled and tripled and chipped, well, the other guy's got to step up. And then the other guy I'm looking for on that defense is Trey Greenlaw. Greenlaw's got to send a message, and he has got to be the man in the middle. As important as Fred Warner is, the tone setter on defense is Trey Greenlaw. He's the one that smacks guys around. He's the one that just lays the wood on the quarterback or the running back. Greenlaw versus Aaron Jones. Hit him and hit him often and make him sore. Make it a black and blue football game. I will say if it's a rain game, I do feel that also favors the 49ers. Though those argue that, Purdy's not good in the rain. We just don't have enough of a sample size to say that. But if it becomes more of a ground game and short passing, yeah, I definitely say advantage 49ers. So winning in the trenches, where the 49ers should win. I mean, I just don't see the Packers stopping the 49ers. The 49ers should be able to go in there and say, well, we're not going to have a Raheem Mostert championship type of performance, but we should run the ball effectively, run behind Trent Williams and Aaron Banks, and do it until they stop you. And I feel the area that you can also attack in passing is, again, the middle of the field. I see all these teams except for the 49ers, with the 49ers are the exception. I think you can attack the linebackers on all the teams that you were originally looking at in the NFC. The Cowboys, oh yeah, George Kittle. I'm saying a big George Kittle game. I always want a big George Kittle game. Because when Kittle gets the ball, good things happen, and he's so dynamite with yards after the catch. I don't think the Packers have the linebackers to play with him. The Cowboys didn't. The Eagles didn't. The Lions, I don't believe. The only team that has guys that can defend the middle of the field pretty well would be the Buccaneers with Devin White and Lavonte David, but they didn't do too well when the 49ers came out here. These teams are weak. I think that is the weakness of the Packers defense. I mean, you see talent. There is talent on the defense. If I rattle off some of these names, I mean, look at the depth chart for the Packers, and there's good players there. Kenny Clark, Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary. They've drafted well, and the young players besides them and behind them. And I don't even know if Jari Alexander is even going to play. Maybe not. Those are good players on the Packers defense. The 49ers should have their way, and they should have a balanced attack. And Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield. And those are the two areas that these NFC teams just they can't deal with it. And that's why the Ravens played well, is because they have Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen they have in the middle field, and Hamilton. So they are uniquely positioned to limit those guys. But the Pat is an area that the Cowboys could not expose, which the 49ers should expose. But let's look at it from a Packer perspective. It's not all about the 49ers here. Well, the Packers are going to look to force a turnover and force a turnover easily. The 49ers don't really fumble, but get your hands up and see if you can get a pick. They might try being aggressive and jump some routes and some lanes and win the turnover battle. That is really big for the Packers, and if they can get the 49ers in a 3rd and long, and I don't know if they're just going to try and sell out the run. It's interesting because they play with 5-man fronts on defense, but they have to tackle well. The Packers, it is critical that they tackle well. Then we turn over the other side of the ball with the Packers defense and the 49ers, or Packers offense and the 49ers defense is, Jordan Love, get rid of the ball quick, and I don't expect them to run the ball like they did last week, but they need to be at least effective and be able to move some chains with Aaron Jones in the running game, because it's not going to be as easy. Let's just face it, it's just not going to be as easy for Jordan Love. And what's interesting with both these quarterbacks is these quarterbacks don't turn the football over. And Jordan Love is, if you've heard some of the Green Bay guys talk about it, is he's not turning the football over, but he's not being conservative. He's getting the ball down the field, and he's doing it with great accuracy. He's making great reads and decision-making. He buys time in the pocket, and he's got elite arm strength. I mean, he can throw off his back foot, not without even really stepping into throws. He can sidearm. The Packers were able to get a lot of wide open and scheme a lot of wide open receivers and tight ends against a pretty good Cowboys defense. I think a little overrated, yes, but I was surprised how it happened. And while there's no star on the Packers, wide receiver group, these are good guys who are improving, and it's going to be frightening another season or so with Watson, Dobbs, and Reed. And Musgrave's got talent. Packers have just developed players so well, and that's why they're here. That's why they've come on so strong, is because of how these players have developed. They've been well coached, well prepared. The players have bought in. They didn't give up after a rough start. Say for the Packers is more big plays, avoid turnovers. You need to pick up some first downs, so it's not all on Jordan Love. And they're going to take shots. They're going to take some shots against the secondary, because if there is an area that has some questions, it is the 49ers secondary. And for them, it is score. I almost feel like whoever gets a touchdown first, more than some games, may be the winner. I mean, who's going to set the tone early? For the 49ers, you have got to set the tone saying, not today. We are going to kick your butts. We're going to hit you. We're going to hit you hard. We're going to tackle. We're going to make you earn everything. And we're going to hit your quarterback. We're going to out physical you. The Packers, it's just who's going to beat the other to the punch. Think if the 49ers play their best game, they win. Both teams, that's what I've heard so much this week. If both teams play their best game, the 49ers win. If the 49ers lose, it's going to be more on them. And you can't overreact because it was a great win for the Packers last week. Yes, but to do it 2 weeks in a row is asking for a lot. And after all this, even though they were playing very well down near the end of the season, this was still a 9-8 team in the regular season. They still had some bad games down the stretch. Not that long ago. And the 49ers are going to run on them. They're going to make the Packers secondary tackle. They're going to go after the middle of the field and those linebackers with Campbell. Yeah, I think Campbell's a weak link at linebacker. And I think Brock Purdy's mobility, even more than Dak Prescott, could cause problems for the Packers. And this is the fact that, when you look at the Cowboys, it's like, okay, who do you have to stop? CeeDee Lamb? Okay, if CeeDee Lamb's not a burner or anything, he's a very good receiver, very polished, does a lot of things well. And you had Crooks, and then Ferguson. Okay, it's a lot different when it's Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, McCaffrey. Those are the best weapons in the NFL. If the 49ers play their game, they win. And it's more about them. And Baldinger said it. Brian Baldinger said it. If the 49ers lose, it's on them. If they do what they're supposed to, they win this one. I think the Packers are going to play tough, but it's not going to be good enough. I don't see this being a one-sided game at all. I'm going to pick the 49ers by 10. I'm going to say, I'll go with 11. 35-24. And the Packers are going to really fight them. They're going to play hard. They are a very good up-and-coming young team. But the 49ers have to get it done. And I think they're going to provide enough mismatches, and they have enough guys, and the secondary will be good enough. I mean, the concerns for the 49ers are, the run defense. The run defense is a little concerning. The secondary, to an extent, a little concerned. And then Moody. It's concern about him. Again, I'm not going to overreact too much after that last regular season game. But the Packers don't exactly have a great field goal kicker themselves. The 49ers have the home field, though it's not a great home field advantage at Levi's. They're rested. They're going to treat this game like it's the Super Bowl. And they have the more talented team and a slight advantage at head coach. So I say 35-24, but it's going to be a good game. It's going to be an entertaining game. There's going to be scoring. And I'm saying, who gets the first punch in? Who lands that first punch? And a lot's going to be determined who gets the ball first as well. That's going to be interesting. I just see the better team prevailing in this one, and it's just, let's face it, a far better team, and this is too much for the Packers to overcome at this time. And if the Packers do turn the football over, then this could be a lopsided game. This could be a one-sided game. If they lose the turnover battle, if like Jordan Love does throw, say, 2 picks and Purdy doesn't, then look out.